Okay, let's get right into it. All right, thank you all for joining our webinar today. We're having these ongoing Mucker Growth Series webinars. And today's topic, I know we just jumped to the housekeeping, but really the topic for today is to cover the technical aspects of SEO, specifically for founders. We work with a lot of founders who are busy. And so the whole purpose for today's webinar is to cover very action-oriented items that you can address as a busy founder to make sure that you got your bases covered from a technical SEO perspective. We did one a couple of weeks ago or last month on backlinking, and so this is rounding out the rest of our SEO series and content. So glad that you guys can all join us. A couple of housekeeping items really quick. As always, people typically ask this question. Yes, we are recording this webinar and it will be available in a few days. Okay. All right. So I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. I believe most of you have met me, especially if you're at Mucker, one of our Mucker portfolio companies. But if I haven't met you, my name is Tony Yang. I'm head of growth at Mucker. All that basically means is I have the privilege of working with a lot of really smart people, a lot of smart founders, and those that are part of their go-to-market team, if they have one, and help them with their growth strategies. And I do see some familiar faces and names, or at least names, in the participants panel. But really, to start today's show is our friend Jacque. He's the founder of an SEO agency called Capconvert. He's a fellow USC, University of Southern California. I went there as well. He's a fellow alum from USC. So I already have, great feelings about him regarding that. But really, I think what got us talking about this particular topic is because in my experience as a growth person, as a marketing and performance marketer and working in-house, I've worked with a lot of SEOs in the past. A lot of them aren't that great, and I've worked with some good ones. Jacque really knows his stuff. And so we've asked him to come and share his expertise specifically about this topic of technical SEO. So you guys are in for a great treat. Let me turn it over to him. He could give you a little bit more background himself. And again, feel free to type in any questions you may have in the Q&A box at any given point in time. All right, so Jacque is all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Pleasure to be on this with all of you guys. A little background on myself. 2014 graduate of the University of Southern California, as Tony mentioned. Ever since then, have been running Capconvert, my agency that I founded in 2015. We specialize in one thing, and that is helping businesses to appear higher on Google. To deliver that, we focus on two primary offerings. Number one, SEO. Number two, ad management. SEO is definitely where the majority of the experience is and has been. We have served clients over the last 8 years in virtually every space, from software companies to product-based companies, local companies, international companies. A lot of the fundamentals for SEO don't change. Keywords change, difficulty changes, competing domains, they do change, but a lot of the fundamentals remain the same. The concepts of keyword research, of establishing digital situational awareness, understanding the domains that you're going to be competing with for keywords on search engine results pages, the mechanics of SEO, the ranking signals that drive rankings on Google. A lot of these things don't really change awfully that much between different businesses. So served businesses and about 200 at this point. Many of our clients have been around for multiple years. You deliver results for some keywords, and then naturally they'll want other keywords. And that has definitely been the core of my experience. At USC, I studied business entrepreneurship and computer science, and here we are 8 years later. So we're based in San Francisco. Majority of our clients, I would say, are on the East Coast, actually, with right behind that being the West Coast and a few international ones. But yeah, that's a brief introduction to myself. With that, I'll proceed through the presentation. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate, interject, and we'll answer those questions. So moving forward, I'll move to the first part of this, just understanding the structure that we're going to take here. In the beginning, it seems like you guys, as Tony has mentioned, have already covered some of the concepts of SEO. I'll just reinforce briefly the value of search, going into a basic understanding of ranking signals, of which there are many, but we don't have the time to be covering all of them on this call. So we'll just cover 5 and then go into the 2 specific ones that we will be focusing on. And then specifically going into those ranking signals. So again, this is a technical focused call. SEO has 3 pillars. You have, in order of importance, authority, technical, content. We're going to be covering technical, and in the technical area, we're going to be covering the subtopics of SEO meta and page speed. And if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to hit me up in the comment box, and I'm sure Tony will raise the question. So to begin, just understanding the value of search. Why is this something that businesses care about? Why is this something that you should be investing your time here on a Thursday to hear about? Long story short, search, a good way that I've always tried to describe it, basically keywords, what you're searching. These are essentially digital highways. You search a keyword, take whatever keyword that is, whatever it is that's relevant to your business. Potentially hundreds, maybe even thousands of people search that keyword every single day. That's traffic, that's search traffic. The goal of SEO is to convert that search traffic, as I'm sure you guys know, to site traffic. These search keywords produce intersections. Those intersections are results pages. Those results pages have digital real estate, and that digital real estate is the topic of this conversation. Your website, any type of digital asset that you may have, media, videos, photos, lots of elements can be placed. Lots of digital real estate can be optimized to show at the top of Google. You take any search, whatever that search may be. Let's say you wanted to know, what the best webinar software is, for example, and you search that keyword. So best software for webinars. Let's just take that as an example. Understanding the anatomy of the SERP is very important. So at the very top, you have basically rich results at the top, followed by site links. What everyone thinks about when they think about SEO is site links. But right after the first site link, you have the related questions pack down here. That's a different SERP element than site links, and optimizing for it is a different process than optimizing for site links. So understanding, if you're searching best webinar software, the fact that the first site link, it's at the top, yes, but right after that, you have a completely different SERP feature, the related questions pack, and you have rich results, and you even have video packs. Or say, for example, you were to search, I don't know, how to paint a house. Again, whatever the keyword may be, it's going to produce generally different SERP features. So again, content at the top, followed by a video pack, and only one site link. So understanding, again, anatomy of a SERP is core to your understanding of how you can then optimize for a keyword, because again, different keywords will produce different SERP features, and different SERP features, the process to optimize for one SERP feature is not necessarily the same, and often is not the same as the process to optimize for another SERP feature. For example, a featured snippet, the response that it can display on Google is between 45 and 55 words. So knowing that, you can optimize non-brand FAQs to show for that. But this is the value of search. Long story short, to drive inbound qualified traffic to your site that is actively engaged in searching. And generally, that's going to do better than a lot of the other channels in terms of the KPIs that matter the most to you and any investors you may have. Things like average revenue per user, conversion rate, bounce rate, session duration, any KPI that you look at in Google Analytics. And hopefully you've all made the transition to Google Analytics 4, by the way, because Google Analytics 3 will be ending on Saturday. But almost every KPI that you can look at on analytics, 8 times out of 10, Google search, organic and paid, is going to beat those KPIs because it's an unfair fight, because Google is inbound, whereas everything else you're demographically aligning. So they like this, they do that, therefore they might like this messaging. With Google, we're just raising your hand to the people who are already searching for what you have. They're coming inbound. So that's just a baseline understanding of search, how it can be a highway, if you will, of inbound traffic. We'll go into ranking signals, of which there are, if you ask anyone in SEO, generally about 200, but the majority of them are not confirmed, and meaning Google hasn't said, yes, this is a ranking signal. There are 18 confirmed. Of those 18 confirmed ranking signals, 5 of them are the most important. You guys already covered authority. So you've talked about referring domains, backlink, domain rating. Hopefully you covered the Hilltop algorithm, which is how Google understands topical relevance between a backlink pointing to your site and how much weight that should give your site for those keywords. But in addition to authority, you have SEO meta, you have page speed, you have content. Of course, users are searching content. It's very important to have content on your site. Of course, as a baseline though, where once you have that content, it's more so about your authority. It's more so about how fast that content loads, how user-friendly it is. And then of course, relevance, distance, and prominence. These are the 5 of the 18 that are the most important of Google's confirmed backlinks. For the purpose of this presentation, we are going to be covering page speed and SEO meta, the second and third most important, both of which fall under the technical SEO umbrella. So let's begin with SEO meta tags. These are the things, long story short, that communicate to Google what keywords you'd like to rank for. The first thing you need to do when, many people talk about wanting to rank for keywords, they want to be higher for a keyword. What I've always said is think of every keyword like a ladder, and there's dozens of ladders, maybe even hundreds. And those ladders are all up against a wall, and you want to climb to the top of that wall to achieve first page rankings. Well, before you can climb the ladder, you have to get on the ladder. And most websites are not on the ladder, meaning they're not indexed. Googlebot has not crawled their site, has not seen the keyword. It is not showing them for that keyword, not on the 10th page, on no page. And the first process that you must do is achieve indexation for keywords. So there are 5 meta tags that are the most important for placing keywords on your site. You have your title tags, your header tags, paragraph text, that's where the majority of your body copy is, alternative attributes, aka alt text, and meta descriptions. These are the most important ways, the most effective ways that you can communicate to the Googlebot crawler and then PageRank and all the other supporting algorithms what keywords you want to rank for. So let's begin with the title tag optimization. So title tags. A lot of you probably know what title tags are. If you don't, you've definitely seen them. Here they are. What I would recommend you all do, go to Google. There's a search operator that you can do. SITE : paste your domain. You do that, it's going to render a results page, a SERP, that shows you every one of your title tags. I would advise you to even do this right now. Most people have not seen this. They might see their brand when they search their brand name, but they don't see a full readout, if you will, of all of the different title tags across their site. And this brings us to the first problem that, I've always said there's tells in poker that someone, maybe doesn't know how to play the game. There's tells in SEO. And one of the tells in SEO that perhaps maybe for no fault of the business, you guys have a lot to do. You don't maybe have hired someone in SEO, or maybe you did. And to Tony's point, unfortunately, a lot of people in this space are, they're more content writers. They're not full service, comprehensive SEO practitioners. They don't understand the fundamentals of PageRank, of Hilltop. They don't know all the details involved in ranking signals. And so maybe they're good at writing content. Maybe they're good at producing directory links, but they're not good at they don't have the full comprehension of what you need. And with SEO, everything has to be good. If you're just really good in authority, you're not going to rank if you're not doing the other things. So this is one of the tells, title tags not being done. Google will autofill these. Now, the best format, and post the call, we're going to be submitting documentation from Google, no one else, no third parties, that will confirm everything that we're talking about. But the best format for your title tag, there we go, is less than or equal to 55 characters long. It used to be 60. Google reduced it to 55. This means it will not get truncated, what you see here. So that reduces user experience, but this isn't a user experience call. This is a search engine friendliness call. And while technically this reduces user experience, it doesn't really matter. Users get that they're going to Mucker Capital. It's not that bit impactful, just it could look better, but that's more of an aesthetic thing. The problem is when you have a lot of truncated title tags, Google will start to essentially believe, especially when you look at the first ranking pages, that you're not doing everything that you should be doing. I'm trying to put this in layman's terms. Everything that you should be doing to provide the best information in a concise way that users can easily understand on any device. And that in and of itself, so it's not about this being truncated, it's about what happens when 72% of our title tags are truncated, and what does that do to our search engine friendliness, and how then does that impact our rankings for keywords. So proper title tag format And I imagine most of you are on content management systems, which makes this incredibly easy. But proper title tag format is as follows here. Keyword, type, path, hyphen, domain. And I'll explain that. So, for example, taking this page, looking at the network, we'll just take that one. Assuming, for example, this is, preferred, let's just say preferred vendors for startups. What you'd want to do, put the keyword first, put the pipe, put in the path. So this is the Mucker network. You could even just call it network because we're going to say Mucker again. So we'll just do network. And hyphen the domain, which would be Mucker Capital. This is the optimal format for title tags. Go take a keyword that you guys want to rank for. Please go search that keyword in Google right now. What you're going to see, every single one of you, is that the top ranking pages are going to have either an exact match or a phrase or broad match. And we can talk about match types if you have questions. Version of this keyword. So the top ranking pages are all basically going to have that, and it's going to be at the top. So this is the format that you need to follow for your title tags. It's clean, indicates to Google what the page is, what the keyword's relevant to. It's the most efficient way that you can tell Googlebot, hey, Googlebot, I want to rank for this keyword. It's in my title tag. You give the most weight to title tags. You put these keywords in your title tag, you use Google Search Console to submit an indexing request, which you can do so manually one by one, or you can do via their Cloud Console indexing API. You do that, you put these keywords in there, a week or two later, you're going to see via the queries report in Google Search Console that you're ranking for these keywords. You'll just be on page 5, 6, 7, some far page, but you'll be on Google, and therefore you'll have accomplished the first step, which is indexation. Can't climb SERPs, search engine results pages, until we get indexed. So put your keywords in your title tags. Use tools like Google's Keyword Planner tool, Ahrefs Content Explorer tool to understand what keywords to use. I'm assuming you guys are familiar with Google Keyword Planner, but assuming you are not, I will just show you real quick.
Jacque, really quick, if I could interject in here. So a couple of questions have been coming in. So first of all, for those of you guys wondering, so Jacque and I did have a conversation about this earlier. We told him, look, feel free to use mucker.com as a guinea pig, as an example of, like that we can work with. Yeah, we know that our website needs a lot of work. In fact, we're working on a new website revamp. A couple of questions that came in that I feel like we should address now. First one is, how do you get back to could you just show people how to do that site search operator again? I think people are a little bit confused about that. Yes.
Yeah. So everyone, if maybe it's easier if you just go to Google. If you're on Google, type in SITE : and then pause. Then go get your actual, open another tab, Command T if you're on a Mac, get the URL, don't write it in, copy it. Come back to where you wrote the SITE : paste that in. And basically what this does is it tells you everything Search Console is going to tell you, but it gives it to you on the SERP result page. So this is the best way to know very important things, such as how many pages do we have indexed? It's going to tell you that right there. Content density is a ranking signal. How much content do you have? How many pages do you have? More pages generally, not always, will result in higher rankings. So it's kind of important to know you have 613 pages. Okay, well, let me go look at one of our competitors. Let me put in the competitor. How many pages do they have? Because this doesn't just work for you, it works for anyone. So that's important. Next, it's going to tell you your title tags. It's going to show you your meta descriptions. And if you guys have other questions on SERP operators, we can definitely riff on that. There's many, many SERP operators you can do. You can find mentions of your brand. If you do in title, Mucker Capital, it'll show you all of the title tags on Google where Mucker Capital exists. And this is great for link building, by the way, because so many times brands will mention you, right? But they won't link to you. The link won't be there. And so you're like, hey, can you put a link there? Great. Our domain rating increased. And as a result, our keywords increased. There's about 50 search operators that you can do. that are, I guess you would say, the secrets of the trade of SEO, the little tools that you can manipulate Google results with and understand better how your website is, where your website is mentioned, and other things like that.
Cool, thank you. And one quick question regarding the title, your recommendation for the number of characters. The quick question is, are spaces counted in the character count, as well as specialized characters? Hyphens, use the vertical pipe. Is there a difference between the two?
Fantastic question. Part A, are there spaces? Are the spaces included? The answer is yes, they are. Empty space is a character. I always advise using just a simple word counter tool. For example, convert case. This is great. It'll tell you, it'll give you the character count, the word count, if you need to convert it. This is like literally one of my favorite tools because it just lets you know you can convert the case as well. But yes, characters are included. And then part B of your question, I believe, was, is there a difference between hyphens or pipes? Was that correct?
Yeah, and also usage of special characters like that other than alphabet.
There's no difference. It's a pipe and a hyphen are gonna take one character. So there's no real difference. It's more of a formatting thing. Google, I typically always try to show the things that will support what we're saying here. And there's 200 ranking signals. And if you just look right here, it's very important that you put that keyword in the front. So it very much matters that you do that. To your other question, if you use a pipe or a hyphen, it's not going to make any difference on your rankings. I just think it's a little cleaner for the user. And from my experience, typically that's, it's not something that I've seen in analytics that can confirm that it's done better, but it is something that many people have said. It just makes the pages easier to understand.
Perfect. Awesome. We do have more questions, but let's save them for later because I know we have a lot to cover in the remaining time.
Of course. Yeah. So continuing, title tags, they are the most important place. If you take keyword page A, page B, both of them have their own title tags. And you put the keyword webinar software on page A, and on page B, you put that same keyword in the paragraph text, page A is always going to rank better because page A has the keyword in the title tag. And returning to our presentation, title tags get the most weight for keywords. So every content management system is going to have an easy way for you guys to edit this. You'll just have to find the page. Once you're on the page, find the page settings. If you're a Shopify site, that's going to be at the bottom of your page. So real quick, as an example, you'll just open up a site, go to the bottom of the page, and then you're going to see the very easy place where you can put in SEO meta information. So real quick, there it is. It'll be under search engine listing if you're on Shopify. If you're on WordPress, you'll do the exact same thing. Access those page settings where it is. And at the bottom, if you haven't enabled Yoast, do so. It's, very light plugin. It's not going to, it automatically generates sitemaps. Like if you have no one who's a developer on your site managing the day-to-day stuff, I highly recommend Yoast if you are on WordPress. And then if you're on something like Webflow, again, find your collection, find your blogs, click on them, and at the bottom, you will see where it says meta title, meta description, and that is where you can add it. So CMS platforms will make this remarkably easy. If you guys are Webflow people, you might need to enable the title area, which I can always assist you with, of course, free of charge. It takes like 2 seconds. And after you've enabled it, you'll be able to put that in. So that's title tags. Let's go to header tags. So title tags are number one, as we discussed. Header tags are number two. Number two in what? The weight that the Googlebot gives them. They're your two best opportunities to put keywords in. I've found that about 90% of the keywords that I put in title tags and header tags, I see on Google Search Console within 2 weeks. Paragraph text, alt text, sometimes I never see them. It supports what we've got in the title and the header tags, but it's not as important. But your header tags absolutely are. Two main reasons. As discussed with the first, it's the second most important in terms of weight. But number two, going to a completely different ranking signal, content structure. Google likes structured content. Google needs to see structured content. That helps Google deliver that content. And by structuring it clearly with your headings, which are 6 are provided, same as a Word document, which you've probably all very, very familiar with, you enable Google to better understand the information, to better deliver that information, especially for things like featured snippets, where you see the answer directly shown on the Google results page at the top, that kind of stuff. Very important to make sure that you are optimizing. So back to the Mucker example. Let's say, just pretending, for example, and I know this isn't like what Mucker's priority is, but let's say they just wanted to rank for venture capital firm. The first thing to understand is every page of your site, and this again is a major problem that many sites have, is many of their internal web pages don't even have an H1 element. They might have an H2, right? And that to you might look exactly like an H1. The first order of business is ensuring that every one of your pages, before you even get into the keyword conversation, ask yourself this: does every one of our web pages have an H1 tag? Because if it doesn't, that on itself will make you less competitive for keywords. Once you've asked that question, assuming, let's say they do, right? Or they don't, and you fixed it, and they all now have the H1 element. The next question is, are we optimizing the H1s for the keywords we want to rank for, where it won't be keyword stuffy? You always want to avoid being keyword stuffy. So again, you access your text editor of your page, which WordPress, Shopify, Webflow, Butter, any of them. It's going to be very easy to do. You go find those H1s, confirm that the page actually has it. So for example, using something like Ahrefs, they have a free browser plugin, which I highly recommend that you guys use. We'll see the first problem here. Do you guys see this drop down? Tony, do you see the drop down?
Yes, we do. Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah,
Yep.
Sorry about that. The problem I want to show here is problem number 1. There's no H1 here. So you think you look at a page and like, well, I see it's obviously the header text. It's emboldened, it's emphasized, it's larger. That's an assumption. Don't make assumptions. There is no H1 on this page. That on itself will make this page less likely to rank before we get into the keyword conversation. So header tags, make them less than 30 characters. Always try to include a keyword, again, at the front, like the title tags, as opposed to the back. Once you've identified all of these keywords you want to rank for, review these tags and start placing them. So it's a very easy thing to do. These are things that, a big focus of this call was to propose things that are not going to take, heavy resources from you to implement. And these are 2 things that definitely will not. Another thing, alternative text. So Google does not have eyes. It has no idea what an image is. It relies on a block of code to understand an image, to know what it's relevant to. If you ever want to experiment with this, just go on Google Images, type a keyword in, and then click on one of the images and inspect that image. You do that, and you're going to find in the alt text a keyword, probably what you just typed in is there. And so, for example, the alt attribute. Let's just find any image on this site. Perhaps we can click into one of them, inspect the attribute up here, and look at it. So this one doesn't even have the alt attribute applied. Long story short, when you go into your images, sorry about that, there we go. You click into them on your content management system, and you're going to see something that either says alt attribute, alt text, or alt element, or alt description. It's alt description in WordPress. In that element, just paste in whatever keyword that it is that you want to rank for. And generally, the rule of thumb that I recommend, take the keyword that's in your title tag and just put it in the alt attribute of the image. But the image has to describe, because the entire purpose of the alt attribute with its inception was accessibility, just so we're all clear. And people often who do know about this will be like, well, isn't it for accessibility? Yeah, that is why it was created. But it serves a very important SEO function, in that the Googlebot will crawl the image, look for the alt attribute, scan any keywords that may be in it, and based on that, understand, okay, maybe I should render this image for this query because it has the same keyword. So there's an accessibility element to it. Write a sentence, description of the image, but in that sentence, make sure you put in a keyword at least. And again, keyword at the front is better than keyword at the back. So do focus on that if you can. And again, if there's any issues, if you can't find the alt attribute, my line is open. I can always help you do that. Finally, the paragraph text, right? This is where 85% of your site copy is going to be. Most people do not take the time, do the diligence to ensure that they have inserted sufficient keywords into their paragraph text, into the body copy of their web pages. And again, these are very simple things that through a text editor that you can do using a tool like Google Keyword Planner, Ahrefs Content Explorer, you can identify the intent. Like when people search a keyword, what direction are they really going in? Or, are they going for a specific type of feature? Are they going for informational intent, transactional intent, navigational intent? What is the intent category? What is the micro moment that they are having? I'll give you one example here. If we type in webinar software, for example, and I'll show you on my screen. So just using this webinar software example, sorry about that. Looking at this, using a tool that all of you can easily get, we can see that automation is something that people are really looking for when they're searching for this. The ability to record and to download free. That's not to be everyone's, obviously money motivation is usually the number one motivator. But as you can see, there's plenty of other sources of intent, other indicators of user intent that you can then bake into your body copy. And I would highly recommend, if you guys haven't used already, the keyword planner tool in Google. It is absolutely free. You access it via Google Ads. It's it's free to set up. It's a tool that, will always give you the data on search history, volume, difficulty, several other things. And then you can augment that information with other tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs. Ahrefs I generally would recommend because they are hyper-focused on SEO, whereas SEMrush has become more of a it's like basically like a marketing suite service. And I found that Ahrefs is better for SEO. Finally, meta descriptions. So the summaries of your pages. Since basically 2002, these have not had any bearing on your rankings. You put a keyword in your meta description, it's not going to make you rank for that keyword. That was a very spammy thing that used to happen with a lot of this, and Google ended that. But nevertheless, it does matter for search. For example, let's take once more the example of, best webinar software. And let's look at the SERP result page and see what happens. You guys might notice something that many of you probably have already noticed in the past. The keyword that I typed in is being highlighted everywhere it's mentioned. So long story short, it doesn't have any bearing on your rankings, but it absolutely has a bearing on a metric that you can see in Google Search Console, and that is organic CTR. It's right at the top next to clicks in your Google Search Console account, which if you have not created, please create. Google will include the keyword that matches the query in the meta description. It'll highlight it. That will generally increase your organic CTR slightly. And SEO is a game of, it's like that football quote, it's basically a game of inches. It's like all these little things that collectively will result in more traffic, more rankings, more click-through, a less bounce rate, which over time results in hopefully more conversions, more purchases, whatever it is that you're trying to drive, whatever results that you're trying to drive. So that is in a nutshell. And if I could talk about, we could literally go into this for like 3 hours because there's much more, but that's a high level understanding of the SEO meta. The point that with the SEO meta tags, your primary value add that you're getting is communicating to the Google bot what keywords we want to rank for, thus achieving step one, which is showing up for those keywords. Authority, it's going to make you rank higher for the keywords you've already showed up for. Indexing is priority number one. Once that's done, you move to authority, you move to the other areas, and that was the meta, which is the best place to be doing that. So any questions, Tony, that you would want me to cover on that before we proceed to page speed?
No, this is great. Let's continue, and then maybe we could address specific parts later on in the Q&A.
Cool. So real quick, page speed, it's an incredibly important ranking signal. Arguably, a lot of SEOs would say, all things considered, it's probably the most important, because even though authority is number one, page speed is not just a search engine metric. It's a user friendliness metric. So a fast loading website is going to help you improve your user experience, reduce the bounce rate. It's also going to, regardless of what a user thinks, Googlebot is going to believe that your site is going to be a better value, and it's going to be more likely to then deliver your site. So page speed, the beauty of SEO, one of the many things that I like about it is so much of what you need to understand how you're doing in these areas is free and provided by Google. One of those things is the page speed report, PSI, in Google. So Google will tell you, hey, this is how we believe your site's loading on mobile and desktop. Now, please do know, mobile load speed is more important than desktop load speed. It gives more weight. Just like title tags get more weight than header tags, mobile load speed gets more weight than desktop load speed. And that was a change that Google made in April of 2018, which again, we'll be getting documentation to confirm all of this for you that you can reference. Page speed insights, at the end of the day, we're trying to rank on Google. Who better than Google to tell us how fast our site is? I think my site's very fast. It's technically an 87 out of 100. So there's room to be improved. Mucker, we all go to it, loads pretty fast. I mean, I like Mucker. It's a good site. It loads pretty fast, as we just saw. But at the end of the day, if Google believes that it's not loading fast enough, if it believes that it's slower or in this, middle area, well, if you're trying to compete with domains that are at the top, all other things considered, you're probably going to suffer in terms of being in the top 6, 7 positions on the first page. So you will need to address page speed, and addressing page speed comes down to the metrics used to evaluate page speed. And these are those metrics. So, you guys have been on a website before and you see content shift, right? It loads and then it like moves real quick. That's cumulative layout shift. How long it takes the browser to render the first piece of content. That's FCP, as you can see. How long it takes from the user interaction to the browser to respond to that user interaction. FID, first input delay. These are all things that in Search Console under the Core Web Vital report and the page experience report that you will get your performance for. Google will tell you what you're currently doing, how you're currently doing in these areas, and it will provide easy learn more guidance on how to fix it. I will tell you that a lot of the things that you will need to fix it will either be premium, plugins, or someone with understanding of page speed optimization and how to optimize the CSS, the Java, the HTML, all the different elements, the compression of the data, everything that you'll need to do to optimize it. But Google will give you the guidance and it'll tell you how you're doing. So these are the signals that will determine PSI, and PSI will just give you that simplified 0 to 100 score of, hey, this is what your speed is. So moving forward, load speed is many, many things. To truly cover this, we would need to be on this call till probably Thursday or Friday next week, and that is not, exaggeration. It is a very comprehensive area. But to kind of basic understanding of it, it really comes down to file size, server response time, and your DNS, your web host, things that can just compress the size of files, therefore reduce the time it takes the server to load those pages that have those files on them. These are the things that are going to improve your load speed. So number one, and you'll see this in your PSI report. I hope you guys all went and looked at it, because you'll very likely see these things in there. But going through here, you'll see that there is unused CSS, cascading style sheets. There is unused Java. These are areas, very easy areas that you can improve. You can minify the code, eliminate the white space. All of these different ways that you'd be very surprised can improve, decrease the file size, and therefore increase the load speed of your site. So there's free tools for doing this that Google has, these are all direct Google recommendations, by the way. For example, for code minification, which you're essentially just removing redundant code and redundant spaces and things that just shouldn't be there. Whatever code language you're trying to do, if you're doing HTML, these are the direct recommendations from Google. They will help you to minify those files and therefore increase the load speeds of your pages. It's not that difficult to do. I would advise consulting with someone who knows a little bit about this, but it's not something that you're not going to be able to do yourself if you just take a little bit of time to read through the Google documentation. So minifying the code, compressing your files, enabling server-side compression, all of these things are going to help you have a faster loading site, and in so doing, rank higher for keywords. Fast loading site equals higher rankings for keywords equals more clicks equals hopefully more conversions. So your web host, having a SEO-friendly web host that ensures maximum uptime, that ensures maximum site security, these are things that will improve your rankings for keywords. Google wants to know that it's delivering secure web pages. It wants to know that your website has as high of a possible uptime as it possibly can have. So there's several recommendations in this area, but making sure, for example, that the host that you are on, which most do, so you will have a tool to check this, but making sure the host that you're on can access servers around the globe where your users primarily are to decrease the distance that data needs to travel. That will increase your load speed. There's liquid web. There's several, recommendations that we can make in this area, but understanding that if you are to increase load speed, number one, you need to minify your code. Number two, you need to enable gzip compression. And number three, you need to optimize your web host. And there's no shortage of good web hosts out there that are very SEO friendly and not too costly. Your DNS, your domain name system. Our recommendation is to use Cloudflare. It's technically free. Use kind of like a pay-as-you-go DNS. But using the right DNS, again, is going to make your site load faster. It's going to increase the load time for users. And as a result of that, as mentioned, you're going to get higher rankings for keywords, which is the whole point of this. So many people get lost in the fundamentals of like, okay, which part of the site are we trying to make it load faster? It's not really about that page. It's about the collective domain, the website, and how that website will then rank for all the keywords that it's already been indexed for. Enabling concurrent file loading. So there's a tool, KeyCDN. I would advise you all, if you have the moment, to open this tool. I'm not sure if you guys can access what's in here, but this will test if you're on HTTP2. And long story short, the difference between 1.0 and 2 is with 1, files load non-concurrently. With 2, they load concurrently, so faster. On its own, that doesn't technically mean it's going to be faster, but generally it's going to make the web page load faster. You're going to combine requests. You're going to include simultaneous downloads. It's going to make everything run more smooth. So whether it be going through PSI, understanding in that report that I just shared, what are the specific issues that are impacting our load speed? We have render blocking resources. Are there images that are broken? Very common. Do we have images that are too large? I mean, I cannot tell you how common it is for someone to just load, a 1 megabyte PNG or some very large file that just looks good. So they're thinking resolution, but they're not thinking of the damage that does their speed. So make sure that you try to keep your images below 200 kilobytes. 200 kilobytes is generally the maximum. Google will actually tell you it's 100, but 200 kilobytes is what I've seen in my experience doing SEO about 9 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week for about 60,000 hours now. 200 kilobytes is sufficient. Like you can go up to that and be fine. Serving it JPEG, not PNG. Lossless compression that JPEGs generally provide compared to the PNG format. So the format you download that file in, always check if it's, JPEG usually is what you should go with. You can use tools, free tools. The easiest one is like Canva. You don't even need to have an account. And if you upload a file there, it'll give you the size and very easy, user-friendly. You don't need to know how to be, Adobe or anything like that. It'll enable you to compress the images down to certain kilobyte sizes. Things like that are going to help you out. And again, encoding your images and everything else that you can do to increase page speed is going to result in leaps. I can tell you real quick from experience that by the way, great on best practices for Mucker over here, but I can tell you when sites reach this next threshold, that 90 to 100, almost always, it's not every time, but almost always, there's a significant increase in first page keyword rankings, which we track in Ahrefs and that we can see in Search Console. It's like Google just makes the decision, okay, you're now at that top tier, if you will, the top shelf of a website in terms of this core signal, number 2 in everything that Google cares about. So compress your images, move to a faster web host, reduce the size of your files, eliminate unused CSS, Java, and HTML. Use the tools that Google recommends to do this that are all freely accessible to every one of you in PageSpeed Insights. At the bottom gives you all the things that you need to get this stuff done. These are the things that will improve your load speed, which as a result will increase your keyword rankings and get you to the point where you're really extracting the value that I'm sure you all want out of SEO. I guess, Tony, are there any questions on that I can cover?
No, there are, but I'm just doing a quick time check. We do, oh, well, next steps. There we go.
Yeah, and I can always take questions just as anyone in here, as mentioned. It's probably even better to give written responses to those questions. So if you just submit the questions to Tony, whatever method that Tony dictates here, I'll provide within 24 hours a detailed response with hyperlinks.
Yeah. So before we jump into the next steps, just let's spend maybe 6 minutes or so to address some questions. And there are some that are already in here. Those of you who stayed with us for this long, if you have additional questions, now's your chance to type them in. But one quick question regarding web hosts. Someone asked, is Namecheap one that you would recommend?
Yeah, Namecheap's good. I don't see any problem with using that. I will say I haven't, had a lot of experience in there. I typically HostGator is one of my favorites. DreamHost is one, in Liquid Web. Those are two that I really like. Mocha Host is kind of good. It's more cheap than anything, but it's not bad. But HostGator is my favorite, I would say. And then in terms of speed, Liquid Web. Liquid Web would be the best web host that I would recommend for page speed, if that's your goal. Liquid Web for sure.
Cool. Okay. And then another specific question. This is more of like how would you diagnose this type of challenge? So Thomas mentioned that their page speed for the website on desktop is fine, but mobile is slow. So how would you go about diagnosing the issues to address in that particular instance?
Yeah, I mean, understanding are all your elements responsive, right? Do certain elements load differently on mobile than they are on desktop? Are they encumbered in some way that is slowing the rendering of those elements, those images, that text on a mobile device, whether it be a tablet or a mobile phone? So looking at, the responsiveness of your page elements, that would be one of the first things that I would do. Going through Google's mobile friendliness test, by the way, very, very, very helpful test. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but just like what we just looked at here with page speed, Google has in the question of diagnosing, Google has a tool, which you're about to see. Sorry, just managing Windows. And that tool will give you kind of like a tailored page speed / user friendliness on mobile diagnosis for your site on mobile. So I would first turn to this tool generally, and then I would look at the responsiveness of the page elements and see if there's anything that is encumbering load speed specific to mobile that is because of those page elements. That would be my step 1 and step 2, I guess.
Got it. Okay. And related to this topic, so you mentioned a bunch of different tools, many of them free, which are great. So for, let's just say, founders that had previously just set up a basic site and they haven't gone through this whole process of optimizing their site for SEO, well, how would you, and this might be kind of putting you on the spot, but what are, the top 5 things, 5 being an arbitrary number, that they should do right now, such as, hey, make sure you set up a search console, make sure you run page, speed insights. What would be those things that you would recommend to get started?
The most important tool in the SEO world is Google Search Console. It's not Google Analytics. Google Analytics, very important. Tells you what's on your site, who they are, where they're from, attribution for channels. Great. Shopify kind of does that too. The most important tool is Google Search Console. Step 1, my primary recommendation, set up Google Search Console, because even if you don't access it, by setting it up, Google will basically start to communicate with you issues that are on the site. I always describe Search Console as it's the only tool that Google provides where you can communicate directly with Google. You can submit a sitemap. You can look to see if a page has been indexed in Search Console, if you can inspect the URL. And so set up Google Search Console. In doing so, you're going to get alerts directly from Google telling you how your site is doing, what you should fix. If there's issues with page elements, that would be number 1. Number 2 is, of course, to set up Google Analytics, specifically GA4. Google is migrating right now from GA3, which has been on for like 15 years, to GA4. So if you guys haven't made that transition by Saturday morning, your Google Analytics will no longer work. Just want to make that really clear for everyone, just in case anyone didn't know that. It's coming up on Saturday. So make sure you made that transition. But number 2, I would say, Tony, would be to make sure you have Google Search Console, Google Analytics rather, set up. Number 3, in terms of, I don't know if you said like they're at the stage of deciding where to go. If there's so many content management systems, so many places to build a website. Two of them are by far the best for certain categories. If you don't have a big team and you sell products, Shopify. Alternative, WooCommerce. If you're a service, WordPress. Alternative, Webflow. These are systems that will enable you to do a lot of what you need to do without having to hire a team or a developer, or a lot of things that can be very cost intensive, especially in those early stages. Down the line, go headless. Down the line, switch to whatever you want to do. But WordPress, Webflow for service-based, Shopify, WooCommerce for product-based. So choosing the right CMS, a big part of my job has been reverse engineering the mistakes of people that have gone down, a CMS that just wasn't right for them, and having to just tear all that down and build back up. So that's why it's a super important thing. Using Google Tag Manager to basically be able to implement a variety of different tags easily and with less code than having to implement them all individually on your site. I would say use Google Tag Manager as my fourth recommendation. Search Console number 1, analytics set to GA4 number 2 with Google Signals activated. Choosing the right CMS number 3, using Google Tag Manager number 4. And then just constantly monitoring the page speed reports, using that site search function, checking Search Console to see where your keywords are. Google Search Console will tell you exactly what page you are for a keyword, how many clicks you get for that keyword. It'll tell you your position, how many impressions. Just like when you scroll on Instagram and you see those impressions, Google Search Console, when you're scrolling through a results page past the blue links, it registers impressions for every one of those pages. And so by going through that, you're going to get a lot of insight. And then lastly, what I would say, and then I'll end this tangent, tracking the indexing report in Google Search Console. This is critical. Remember, as I'm sure all of you know, but sometimes we forget, Google is not the internet. Google is an index, and you can publish pages all you want. If those pages aren't indexed, the keywords on those pages are forfeited. They're not going to help you. So there's an indexing report in Search Console. In that indexing report, you can see how many URLs have been indexed. Google will tell you over time how many are getting indexed. We achieved this via the cloud indexing API that Google has. Tracking that, tracking keywords, Search Console is going to be your best friend. Sorry, hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, no, that's great. Based on the questions that have been coming in, it sounds like we might have to do another session with you on specifically Google Search Console and how to utilize that effectively. But this is great. Let's wrap up since we're almost up on time. Thanks for pulling up the screen in terms of next steps. Okay, so first of all, I will mention for Mucker portfolio companies, his company Capconvert is one of our recommended and preferred partners. So we have a special arrangement with him for our portfolio companies. Any of you who are Mucker portcos and need help with SEO, definitely contact Jacque. As you can tell, deep domain expert in this whole topic of SEO. Also, feel free to reach out to me for any other recommendations that you need, or your Mucker advisor that you're speaking with. One thing that Jacque is also offering is he's willing to do free SEO audits if you connect with them. And so, like part of the thing that we have struck up in terms of a arrangement with him is for, Mucker companies, the first month of an SEO program is free. So definitely go look into that, into the Connects platform, or simply reach out to me or Britton. But yeah, SEO audit, you could simply go to his website and ask for an audit as well. And the public uncover a lot of things that we uncovered even in this example with Mucker's own website, right? Okay, so there's that. And then for any future sessions with these growth webinar series, we're trying to do one of these per month. Sometimes we might double up and do maybe 2 in a month. But if there is anything that any of you that are still with us would like to learn more about to help you with your growth, it could be any particular topic, send me or Britton an email and we'll get that slotted in. The good news is that we've got content already lined up through the end of the year because there's a lot that we can cover. Most of this stuff will be in the founder portal, and almost probably every single webinar that we do, we're going to provide and post it on our blog. We're not going to, require anyone to fill out a form. It's just going to be posted. Again, we're backlogged a little bit, so the recent webinars have not been published, but be on the lookout for those. Again, if you want to stay up to date, just go and subscribe on our blog site. And then lastly, if you are joining us and are not a Mucker portfolio company and are interested in learning more, you can certainly go to our website and go to we have an accelerator program called Mucker Lab. Definitely feel free to go and submit your company or apply there. We have an ongoing sort of an admissions process, evaluation process. But definitely, go and check that out if that is something that you're interested in. All right, we're right up on time. Jacque, thank you so much. That was awesome. I got already tell from all the questions coming in that there's not only a lot of interest, but additional questions that people have been asking about that might another session with you if you're open to it. Again, this was great. Thank you everyone for joining, and be on the lookout for the next one. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Awesome.